In AD 193, Septimus Severus was the emperor of the Roman Empire, and he was a conquering emperor. He conquered throughout the British Isles and many other places. He was very vicious in what he did, but one of the things that he began to do, especially around the turn of the century, was persecute Christians, and he was one of the most vicious emperors at doing this. In North Africa was a real stronghold of Christianity, and this is where he concentrated a lot of his persecution. And there was a 22-year-old girl in North Africa by the name of Perpetua. She had just had a child, and she was taken captive for being a Christian. And they took her and they put her in the prison, and Perpetua's father came in. He visited her, and he begged her for his sake, and for the sake of Perpetua's brothers, and for the sake of her child, who would probably die without his mother. He begged her, please renounce Christ, and she told him that she couldn't be something that she wasn't, and she was a Christian, and she would be a Christian until the very end. So they took her in front of a judge, and she refused to make the sacrifice, and many of her other friends did as well. So a short time later, she was taken into the arena in front of thousands, even 10,000s of people, and beasts tore her and her friends apart, not to the point where they killed them, but to the point where they were bleeding and they were going to die, and they threw them in this pit where they were waiting to execute them. And then this young gladiator comes and he pulls her out of the pit, and as she's leaving, she gives encouragement to her friends, and then she's taken to the point of execution, and the gladiator draws his sword, but after seeing her faith for such a young person, his hand is shaking and he just can't bring himself to kill her. But the crowd is chanting like they want her blood, they want her to die. So she takes the sword and guides it up to her throat, and at that point she passed through death into everlasting life. And the courage that this girl, who's just our age, illustrates is incredible. And we read passages like in Luke 17 where Christ tells us that he might want us to give up our family, even our kids, even our lives. And that seems so far off, but it seems that for her, Christ did demand at some point that she give up her child, she give up her father, and she even give up her life for his sake. But that seems kind of far off to us, because we're not being asked to give up our lives or kids. We don't have kids or our parents or anything like that. So what is our sacrifice for the kingdom of heaven? And I think that there's three things. As I was reflecting on the story, and as this story gripped me, that God put on my heart, BJ, these might be things for you to sacrifice. One was my thoughts. I know I walk through the day and I daydream about all kinds of things, to and from class or sitting in class or whatever. And what if these thoughts that led to the things that I'm passionate about, what if they were centered on Christ and centered on his kingdom and things like that? Another thing that struck me was my words. I speak thousands of words every day, but how many of them encourage other people? How many build other people up? Oftentimes, I complain when I could be thankful, and not only does that reflect the attitude of my heart, and does it make me less grateful and less loving to other people. So yeah, it has an effect on me personally and an effect on other people. And finally, my energy. I know a lot of times I'll be tired and I'll get a little lazy and I'll go check fantasy football when I know, I know for sure, and I even think about it, that if I go in this guy's room, I could have an impact on his life. It could be even something eternal. And instead I go and I do something that really has no eternal significance. So what would happen if God got a hold of my words, if God got a hold of my thoughts, and if God got a hold of my energy? And one thing about my thoughts, I notice the more I think about something, the more passionate I become about something. And then the things I become passionate about, those are the things that I choose to act on. So really my actions are a product of my thoughts. And I would really like for Christ to become the whole center of the things that I think about, the things that I daydream about during the day. So then I'll truly become passionate about the things that God is passionate about. And then my actions will look more and more like Christ. My words, in Hebrews 13, Paul speaks of our words being a sacrifice to God, but truly something that we can give up and give to Him as an offering of praise. And I want that to be what my words are like. And I know that if encouragement and love come from my mouth, this hall will be different, and people will be impacted by that either subconsciously or consciously. Then their words will change, and they'll start to change how they speak to other people. And then this hall can really be a different place if I would change my words. And then my energy, I know that there have been times where God's almost forced conversations into my life, conversations that I might not have chosen to have because I was tired or something. And then those conversations have been the best conversations I've had all year. And that's God forcing conversations into my life. And I don't regret any of those happening. But what if I was intentional? What if God didn't have to bring them to me? What if I could run out and try to find those? What if that's where my time and my energy was spent? What kind of difference would that make on this hall? And then just in people around campus. So I would really like to see God get a hold of those 3 areas of my life. So as I challenge you guys, I would just say this, something really simple. Pray about one area of your life that God might be able to change, might be able to get a hold of, and that you could lay down as a sacrifice. He's not asking for our lives right now, but He is asking for us and for all of us. And what's an area that we can lay down that would bring us closer to looking holy like Christ? So pick that, pray it through, and then try to live that out. So this emperor that I talked about at the beginning, Septimus Severus, he reigned for like 30 years. He expanded Rome, really a great Roman emperor. But at the end of his life, right before he died, he said these words, which I think bear a stark contrast to the way Perpetua died. He said, "I have been everything, and everything is nothing. A little urn will contain all that remains of one for whom the whole world was too little." Let me read that again. "I have been everything, and everything is nothing. A little urn will contain all that remains of one for whom the whole world was too little." Reminds me of something Jesus said. Jesus said, "For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. What good is it if a man gains the whole world, yet forfeits his very self?" Thank you, guys.
Yay.